Drive, determination, and dedication. We're talking Flamin' Hot. The Richard Montanez story recap starts now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Flamin' Hot recap, where we talk about Richard Montanez and his story. But first, let me introduce to you my co-host with the most, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Welcome, Randomly. Hey, hey. Oh, wait. There you go.
Okay. Can we
Your
try
mic
it
didn't
again?
turn on unless we had an applause, so I had to make sure that happened.
Let me try it again. Hello. Yeah, what an interesting story. One good thing is we do the pop culture recaps quite a bit. And then, those are really fun and they're just such a different thing. This one was good because all of a sudden this movie comes to Hulu of all places and sort of lights everything on fire, in terms of being flaming hot. And people have been loving it. And it was nothing I was even on the radar to recap and cover with you. But then you pitched the idea and I was like, we should definitely watch it. And I think you watched it more than once, right?
I watched it multiple times, yeah. Well, here's why I watched it multiple times. Stories like this resonate with me deeply because you and I both know the struggle of getting into the industry or just pursuing anything that is there's going to be a lot of roadblocks along the way. So when I heard this story and I actually heard what he had to do and the lengths that he had to go in order to make this, I mean, come on. I
knew you would. I happen to have chips, but I don't have the flaming hots today.
Míralo. Listen to the crunch.
Go. Is it like good hot or bad hot?
It's good hot.
Was it rated like one of the bigger shows on Hulu? I think it was like doing really, really well.
It had a pretty big opening weekend because here's the thing. As Hispanics, we know hot Cheetos are like embedded in our culture. They're everywhere. They were at lunch, and you knew you were getting the hot Cheetos. You knew you were getting hot Cheetos and the nacho cheese for lunch, and a pretzel, and you got that chocolate chip giant cookie. Like that was in our DNA, especially mine during junior high school and high school. That was your go-to lunch. There was absolutely no protein in my lunches, but I definitely always had a bag of hot Cheetos and some nacho cheese. Was that a thing for you in high school?
Yeah. No, everyone. Lots of people did love their flaming hot Cheetos. So that's why it was so funny because you always knew the impact, of the chip, but you never knew where the story came from, And so to see it done in that way is like really, eye-opening. I love the way you opened up the show too. You were like dedication, determination, because so much of that was in there. And another thing about the story was like there was a lot of, you get placed in certain scenarios, and that's like sort of a glass ceiling you're expected to stay within. So to see the ambition to cross over through that, it's good to see. Sometimes when you watch it, though, it's a little bit hard because it doesn't happen for everybody. Yeah. So it's like, I guess what I'm saying is how great would it be if more people did have a shot? So while one hand, I'm like, yay, I'm excited, for him, Richard Montanez, and that drive and dedication. But there's, for every one story that did work for him, there's so many where it didn't. And so it makes you say, gosh, if there was more of an open platform for people to have their say so and give their opinion, the sky could be the limit. So that was maybe the nuance that I saw in the film.
You know what? We're in a time right now of Latin explosion, almost like back in the 90s where Ricky Martin and Selena, and it was just a big boom moment for all these people. And he dated Mariah Carey. This is just terrible. a terrible way to go about this. And I'm drawing a blank right now, but we're going through this Latinx
Oh,
commercial right now.
Tommy Mottola.
Tommy Mottola, and there was another one. He's a huge Mexican singer. But in today's day, we have Rosalia, we have Carol G, we have Bad Bunny, and then Bad Bunny now is making his, his movie debuts, and he's going to be one of the first superhero characters that's fully Hispanic. So we're going through this stage right now, and I think it's really important for us to tell these stories because we don't always have our stories told. And so this was a little bit maybe of a deeper meaning for me, just because I relate on an emotional level, and I hardly ever show my emotions. That's just that's the Latin way, right? You don't show your emotions. You figure it out and you move forward. But this was actually I got worked up and emotional when I was watching it, just because I was so happy for him and I was so proud for him to know that he took this and he embedded it in our culture, which then propelled it and like made it fly off the shelves. But I mean, let's start from the top. Richard Montañez, what an amazing individual. I kind of laughed when he went above and beyond his boss just to pick up the phone and call the CEO directly. That's virtually unheard of. I'm pretty sure I can get a hold of the CEO of my company, but I don't think I would call him because I don't have nothing to pitch to him.
Yeah, I mean the stars aligning, and even I guess you would say like the naive energy that he had, where when they were doing the everyone needs to just see the internal. All jobs probably have this. The internal, what would that be, like a video saying what the core mission of the company is, and how he felt like he was being talked to so specifically. So when the CEO was like, "We want this from you," how many times have we had these, same experiences, but you never really feel like it's that personal or you could do something with it because there is so many restrictions, let alone getting through to the phone call that you have something worth the while, that what you're talking about, and that anyone even takes you seriously. So it was like kind of the right time, and a little bit of the stars were in alignment for this to even work out. And I think more than anything, the ultimate thing was like passion. It was like the passion really cut through. And that's one thing that if you ever want to try to convince anybody of anything, sometimes the facts and the stats are good, but the passion is what makes people want to show up and fight for you and fight with you to try to get that win. Because he's not going to have the professional words that is, will showcase this is worth the time to be spent on this. He's not going to have that, but he's just going to have like something that excites him so much. I love that the actor was Jesse, whatever his name is. We've seen him on so many things for so many years. But I guess
he was in The Mother too with J-Lo.
He has definitely been working.
Jesse Garcia. Sorry, I don't know why I was drawing. I said Martinez. I'm thinking of a different character. But Jesse Garcia, he was in The Mother with J-Lo. Sorry, go ahead and continue.
No, I just think that's great because all the years we've seen him, he's always been working. But like to have this impactful of a role, I mean, it's just kind of like one of those things where you're like, wow, he has not been a lead just yet, or something this substantial.
And he like, played it so not? Well.
Yeah.
He played it so well, and if you weren't, and here's the hard part, if you weren't raised in, not to say that he wasn't, but if you weren't raised in lowrider culture, it's hard to portray that relation, right? And I would know this because I was raised in lowrider culture, like lowrider bikes, lowrider cars. I don't know if you were or not. Were you raised around lowrider culture?
Not so much, man.
Okay, but you know about it.
Yeah, I mean, we know about it. Yeah,
you know about it. But when you're actually infused in that, to play that role,
I was big into the music. I was big into the music. Even when I started radio initially, we had a radio station that we worked at that was, of course, connected with Art LeBeau. Now, all these artists aren't necessarily just tied in only to lowrider culture, but it was like an assemblage of that music that sort of became a sub-genre, I guess. Because I remember a lot of the artists in my mind, I'm like, some of them weren't even necessarily West Coast artists, Yeah. But it just had like a life of its own, is I think what you're referring to.
Yeah, mostly. You had Lil Susie and you had Lisa and the Cult Jam. those major
Hmm.
power players in the Hispanic community. I think
Now
it's
you brought that up because you're saying what there was an attachment between Richard Montanez's story into that.
Yeah, I'm just saying there was he used the lowrider culture in order to get Flamin' Hot to fly off the shelves.
Hmm.
They came with their cars, their Impalas, their bombs. They came and they stockpiled on all of these Flamin' Hots. They took the final risk
Hmm.
to be the official delivery individuals, and they went out and they spread it amongst the town to all the kids in the neighborhood. And if it wasn't for his character, Richard Montañez, if it wasn't for his connection with the lowrider community, he wouldn't have had anybody that I could immediately think of that would go out and deliver all of his goods.
It would just be nothing but Cool Ranch today. Yeah.
And
Who gets
baby,
Cool
I
Ranch?
I love Cool
Yeah.
Ranch, but when it
Hmm.
comes to my Flamin' Hots,
Yeah. So you were always into you all like when do you think was the first time you had Flaming Hot Cheetos and like really loved them?
it was a thing as kids. My mom used to go to Sam's Club and Costco, and she would buy a box of the mixed Lay's chips from, like, the individual like mini packages,
Hmm.
and they would come, and I would always eat the hot Cheeto ones first, and then I would go to the Cool Ranch Doritos, and I would leave the nacho Doritos for the very, very, very end, because I was like, you can get these anywhere.
Mm.
And I just remember always specifically going to the hot Cheetos at first.
Yeah.
What was your first experience with hot Cheetos? If you can remember, like, if not, it's totally cool. But like something that just a moment that stands out with you.
I don't generally remember. I just remember like that post or maybe the last year of high school, or actually years later, because what I'm gonna say is gonna tie into something else.
Got it.
The Corona drinking moments mixed in with that. So for the sake of conversation, we're gonna say many age appropriate years. Um, but yeah, that would be the earliest that it was like that type of impact because it connected so well. The Corona, the chips and all of those things and all of those memories too, and the music was blasting as well. So all of it would probably be around that time. Maybe younger too. Maybe like playing Little League growing up, like that kind of stuff too. In a Southern California vibe. I don't know where the setting exactly was. I want to say like maybe. Well, the factory itself is near Silmar, I believe. Correct?
Yeah. Um. Sorry, I was looking at like the next. You know how it is when. Here's the thing. You know how it is when you and I are like streaming and we're like going through all like the little banners and what's coming up next, and you got to push them. So I was looking at Eva Longoria's banner, but like it also deleted, so I had to re-bring it up.
Oh no.
Um, I do want to transition over to Eva Longoria, and um, she's such a power player in the acting world. And she started, I believe, at a Dairy Queen drive-through, or she worked as a drive-through server. But during the press interviews, she stated that um, telling the story was important because the Hispanic community is very important, and she never knew of the story and why it was such of importance to the Hispanic community when it came to this specific chip, and why we all related to it so easily, and why it was so influential amongst us. So she took the lead on this, and she wanted this story to be told because she thought it was important to inspire young generations who are pushing for their dreams to go ahead and take the chance on themselves, because you never know how they're going to pay off. Now, with that being said, through the movie, I noticed that there was never an exclusivity that was written, but what he states, what the character states, is that it wasn't his wife's flavor, but it would suffice
Mhm.
for the actual chip, which I was like, interesting, because now I'm interested in knowing what the actual
Oh, the business part
flavor
of it. Yeah.
was, because he ended up becoming the head of marketing of diversity, equity, and inclusion marketing.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm curious to know what the actual flavor that got, because we all know the flavor, but what
Mhm.
was the original flavor that got this started?
I know. I almost wondered, did he actually get paid his worth. Like,
Well, I
if
looked it
you
up
know,
and
you
he's worth
almost
roughly around $18 million, which I'm
mm,
like, Flamin' Hot is $1 billion brand.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, no matter how much you break it down, you're almost like, okay, it's because it did become such a thing. I like at the end of the movie, you saw all the influential impacts that it had, with the chip.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We have, lime Flamin' Hot Cheetos, regular hot Cheetos. We have we have Flamin' Hot Fries. We have Flamin' Hot Doritos. There's like the cheese puff Funyuns. Then we have me, and I like to travel with my exclusive little canister and the Flamin' Hot Cheeto Puff Minis. And I mean, just you could just hear the
Oh,
crunch.
those are the puffy kind. See, I never had
Yeah,
that one.
look,
No, because I mean, even yeah, so it's more of a puff, yeah, than the little the one that looks like a club.
I like, what? I
Yeah,
like the puffs because they get stuck up in your teeth, and then you gotta
yeah,
like with your tongue to get them out.
yeah. Oh, so there's an aftertaste,
So
or
there's
not
a
aftertaste, but
lingering flavor opposed to
mm,
just the standard cornmeal,
mm.
cooked puffs, or what did you call it? A hammer, or
It's like a club or something
yeah,
like
a
that. It looks like
club.
a little club. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's more traditional Cheeto,
Yeah.
and that's where I've always seen more of the spicy ones,
Hmm.
flaming hot ones. But I mean, yeah, it's been reproduced and repurposed with so many different, within the actual, was it Lay's potato chip, the company,
Yes, Lays.
stuff like that. I wonder how the impact was with the company. You know what I mean? Like, was what needed to be corrected, what needed to be made for television, or, made movie
Mm,
magic or whatever.
yes.
Because it sounded like everything was pretty on point. But I do like who put it together. Eva Longoria is a trusted producer. The work that she just did with CNN was like it was within food, it was within culinary and travel, I believe, and it was starting around. I don't know if it was just Mexico City, but it like started off there or something of that
Mm,
nature. And so
hmm.
that was a show she just did. You know what I mean? So she always chooses, her programs wisely that she puts her name to, either as a producer or starring in. She wasn't in this. You would almost think that she would have threw herself in for a
There
little bit of a
was a
cameo.
tiny, 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 tiny cameo.
Oh, was
Tiny,
it? Was
like
there
just
really?
a
Okay,
slight
I
one.
didn't see
It was
it.
at the park when they were passing out the Cheetos.
What was she doing?
She was just in the park with the families. It was very tiny, tiny, tiny
Oh,
cameo.
well,
But
she's
she was there.
also,
She was there.
and she's also, when she was, before she made it, she was an extra in Selena, and the when she wins the award.
I did not know
Yeah,
this.
that's a fun fact. Yeah, she's well, she said that she is an extra in Selena with Jennifer Lopez, and when Jennifer Lopez goes on stage as Selena to win the award,
Uh
she's one of the people that's in the audience. Eva Longoria
huh.
is in the
I
audience.
have to go back and watch this. This is something about our culture that I didn't know.
Yeah, well, I don't know why I know that. I'm just an interview watcher, so I've more than just being excited about the movie like you were
Hmm.
and how you felt like it was a great representation.
Hmm.
I'm such an interview watcher, so I must have
Yeah.
watched every time Eva Longoria was promoting this, and she really did it so warmly that's what got me excited about all of this.
Hmm.
And I like that she just had a really good run with Jesse is the one actor, and what was the girl's name? The
Annie.
lead, and Annie from
Annie's from
Hentified.
Hentified. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was really fun, and then I didn't know till kind of later that Devon Franklin, he also lent his name to this project as well. So it seems like a lot of people really just wanted to get this made and have fun with it. So I think we see that in the photo here.
I feel like this was a passion project amongst the entirety
Wait,
because
does that mean they didn't? But they got paid though, I'm
yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah, of course. But I feel like it was more of a passion project as it was a feel good.
Mm-hmm.
This is such an enlightening moment to get this story out there because it's a true story.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually saved a lot of jobs and created a lot of jobs. I believe Richard had called the CEO, or the CEO called him, and he said, "How many boxes do you need? About 5,000?" He goes, "No, 5 million." And it was like,
Yeah.
that was the moment. And he really believed in himself, and he thought that he had something that was going to just take off and get off the ground. And it was disappointing to me to see that there was actually someone working against him within the company, wouldn't put any
Mm,
money towards marketing, was ready to pull it off the shelves. And that's when they actually went ahead, called all their friends, and just, made bags when they weren't supposed to and put them in the cars and sent them on their way,
mhm.
which I thought was really cool because not everyone is up to do things like that. So it
Two
was.
questions. Two questions for you. If you,
Mhm.
being that you're like an interviewer and television host and these things, if you were to interview Jesse as Richard Montanez, and if you were actually able to interview the actual Richard himself, what
Mhm.
were some of the questions you'd want to ask both of them?
I would want to ask I would want to ask Richard how he prepared Jesse for this role and where was his mind when he was actually going through this process and actually living it, because this was a time where the economy wasn't doing that great. Reaganomics had caused such a I'm not going to say crash and burn, but it had a big dip in the
Yeah, an
economy.
economic downfall. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I would ask him, where was your mind? Was your mind in desperation, or was it in were you seeking out inspiration, or were you just a person that was looking for just a solution to the problem at hand? And why didn't you care to just hand over the recipe to a corporation who could have very much got rid of you and just taken over taken control and then moved on with it and really took advantage of you, but they actually worked with you. So I would really want to know, was it just wanting to be a good person and keep people employed, which is why you handed over the recipe? Or was it you were just trying to keep your job and keep food on the table? So whatever you had to do means necessary and be innovative, and even if it meant giving up your own recipe and going through the trials with your kids of figuring out the correct flavor, um where was your mind, because
I'm
we
also
all go through
interested.
these hard times.
I'm also interested to know the fact and fiction, and then answer the next part of the question too. But what you were saying, like I'm wondering fact and fiction in terms of like the friend that was the one who sort of got him the job originally. You know what I mean? The one
Mm,
who sort of took him out of some of the decisions he was making and the only life that he at one point knew about, and doing what he has to sort of do to survive. And then when he was shocked that one of the guys from the neighborhood was like, no, no, but I'm trying to elevate myself by working at this factory, and he sort of helped him get that job, and gave him some tough love, some actual honest love as well. So I'm wondering how fact or fiction that part of it was, and if
mhm.
so, does he still talk to that person? You know what I mean? Like, where did that person land out within the situation at hand?
You know what? That's an interesting point, because one of my other questions for Jesse would be becoming an actor and going through the process of becoming an actor. How did you have to separate yourself from your own community in order to believe in your dreams? Or what type of support system did you have? What were you fighting against to become an actor and to be established as you are today
Oh, right. So it's almost like he could put that into the into the role
into the
in the same
role?
similar way. It's like, how are you going to navigate this thing that is such a farce, where everybody always tells you, is farce the right word? I don't know. But what everyone always tells you, oh, it's just a dream, it's just a hobby, go have fun
Hmm.
with it, but they don't take it seriously. Well, if Richard didn't take his thing seriously, it would never land the way that it landed. So many people
Exactly.
want to be quickly to jump in front of you and say, oh, it's not going to work at all, or it's one in a million. It's like, okay, well, if I don't do anything, it's a for sure no. But if I push for it, it could be a possibility of a yes. And why are so many people afraid to make those decisions and those efforts? It's beyond me,
You
actually.
know, I will say, as an individually, uh, a lot of my friends and our surrounding and our upbringing, and a lot of my friends being Hispanic, from Hispanic backgrounds, it was always a concern of having food on the table and having a reliable income source and something to provide yourself a future with, a stable job nonetheless. And as much as our families wanted us to go for our hopes and dreams, there was a bit of backlash that came with that, as of, don't leave your family behind, make sure you're always helping the family, make sure you don't leap too far, because if you fall, I can't afford to catch you, because we all came from the middle class. And so coming into television myself, it was, make sure you have a job. I'm still the same. Make sure you have a job. You can still go after your career, but make sure you have a steady income that's going to provide you a 9-to-5 check and continuously roll in and keep coming, because that's your fallback plan in case this doesn't work out for you.
Yeah, but that's not even a guarantee these days. So.
Exactly. And I was actually downplayed by some of my college advisors, as in, you have to be good looking, you have to have a nice body. All you're going to do is interview celebrities when they want to talk to you about what they have to promote. You're not going to. And I thought to myself, no, I am going to be the star. I'm going to be on my own show one day and they're going to be interviewing me. And
also not with that attitude,
Exactly. And fast forwarding, I was like, I found myself filming with TMZ for Telepictures. And then fast forward to that, I found myself filming with Beachfront Productions for Create the Escape on Peacock TV. And so if you really allow yourself to be limited by your surroundings and what they tell you what you can and cannot achieve, you're only going to go so far. It's like the flea method. If you put a flea in a jar, it'll jump and it'll hit the ceiling. And it'll do that for so long, eventually you can remove the plastic wrap or the cap from the jar and it won't jump higher than the jar. And fleas can jump tens of feet high. So versus, someone that's not born in that element, a flea that's born in the natural world, just out in the grass, it will jump 20 feet high and continue on with life, and it'll never know a limitation until it gives up. Versus the flea that's in the jar. So it kind of comes to, and I don't mean to call us fleas, where that has nothing to do with it, but I'm just giving that as an example, as in sometimes you outgrow your surroundings, and the best possible thing that you can ever do in life is move out of your community that you were raised in, so that you can expand your mind and actually pursue something that might be outside of the ordinary.
That was the one thing I wasn't sure that this movie would connect to and have so many people interested in, is because I was thinking it was maybe too motivational. You know what I mean? Like too,
elaborate on that. Huh? Like, what do you mean by too motivational?
Well, you just said a second ago that there's a lot of like bringing you back down. Like, oh, you're not going to make it doing this. You're not going to make it doing that. So, and you happen to have that dedication. You were like, no, I'm going to push for this, and this is going to happen. So you would relate to a movie like this because you're that same type of person, very like-minded with Richard Montanez.
Yes.
Versus other people don't really ever take the chance, so they get to sit in a space of comfort. So I wasn't sure if this was too such a wonderful story of dedication that everyone would link to it, but for whatever reason, everyone did link to it, because and that would be the lesson that I would hope people would take from the movie is like, don't just get behind this movie and say, oh my God, I feel so represented. This was fun to watch. I'm inspired. What a good story. But then don't turn around within your own and the people that you know and love and not show them that same support, because you know how easy it could have been for Richard to stop and the wife to not have his back. Like that could have been such a, it took the perfect amount of magic for it to work. So let's not just grovel and get excited when somebody wins, even if it's the basis for a win. A win is a win for everybody.
Yes.
But you also got to think about all the other people who are still trying those things. And sometimes wins show up in ways of a loss before you could get to the win. I guess I'm thinking a little too analytical. Like, I don't want to do this. I just wasn't. What I'm saying is, I didn't know it would be this big of a movie because of that. Because when I watched it, I felt like there was a little, there was all this warmth to it, but I didn't know if that would make people feel connected. Because quite frankly, a lot of people really don't go that hard for their dreams.
They don't.
They move in a space of comfort, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But I was a little hoping that this would, because of the reaction, because you saw it all over Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, everyone really liked it. I'm like, okay, then let's all focus on what it is that we want to do and what kind of changes we want to make in this world. So that's the kind of motivation I'd like it to, feed for everybody. No pun intended, but I would like to feed that, versus just being excited that it did happen. Be excited, be in the corner of the people that are also going for it. You know what I mean? It's so easy to sit on those sidelines, and thank God he didn't sit on those sidelines, and thank God the story was available. I don't know if it came by way of a book or just a writer, But nonetheless, it got made, and I think Eva Longoria was the perfect person to navigate it. And
Mhm.
yeah, she's really got it going on.
I really, you know what, I do really like the idea of get comfortable with being uncomfortable,
You
because
like
it's what
that?
I do like that.
That
I,
is not something I enjoy at this tender age of 42. I
no, and
used to have it when I was young. Let's go. But
yeah,
it's hard to have that all the time. So I'm just also
yeah, yeah.
admitting that. But go ahead, keep going.
No, I like
Give
the
yourself
idea
a
of
close up, actually.
get comfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because when you're putting in the work, it's not going to be comfortable. There's going to be long days. There's going to be long nights. You're going to be hitting that 15-hour, 16-hour mark. You're going to be working an 8-hour shift and coming home and working 5 hours on your dreams. But if you're continuously stockpiling and putting away into your own self and investing in yourself, eventually something's going to pay off. It might not be what you think. It might be something completely different. Sometimes, and whether you're religious or not, sometimes the universe, the law of attraction, God, whatever you believe in, sometimes it'll provide you something that you were not expecting out of something that you're actually doing for someone else. So
Mhm.
for example, for myself, you and I both came from AfterBuzz TV when we got in front of the camera and really kind of got. Or no, you actually had a longevity of career, but I was talking about when you and I met. We
Mhm.
came from AfterBuzz TV, right? And through AfterBuzz TV, I made connections, learned about a site called Hosts in LA on Facebook, and I added myself. And I would always see these castings posting, boom, 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 always posting, and I would never submit for them because I thought I wasn't good enough. I need to have this extravagant reel and something that it is backed by thousands and hundreds of millions of views, right? Because that's the portrayal we get. We're so outside of Hollywood that we don't know if we're ever going to be in that community, right? So I actually submitted for something else that wasn't for me, which I submitted for HGTV. They were filming a show. It was called Unfinished Business, and it was about DIY families that are doing projects at the house. And my mom's house at the time, my cousin and I were remodeling the entire thing: electrical, plumbing, expanding rooms, texturing walls, doing floors, just doing it all. Right. My mom was working, and she has bad knees, but she was still going. And so I submitted our house for this show. Lo and behold, the the head admin of Hosts in LA, Shay Holland, happened to be the co-host of Unfinished Business. I had never met her. We didn't know each other. I had just by chance recognized her from the profile photo on Hosts in LA. And I was like, wait a minute, don't you run that site, Hosts in LA? And she said, yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been part of your thing for 2 years. I've never submitted. She's like, why haven't you submitted anything? I said, because I never thought I was good enough. I don't have the footage and anything to create my reels. And she said, you just have to be likable on camera and just be able to come through the camera and be relatable. And I thought, oh, and all the footage I had was talking about, TV shows or pop culture, and it had nothing to do with what I actually knew how to do, which was remodel. And there was a casting for Create the Escape for Peacock. And so she said, I actually got a casting today that are looking for a diverse individual, male, to be part of this cast. They had already casted the two ladies that were part of the series, and they
Yeah.
casted them for the pilot. And they were looking for someone because the individual, for one reason or another, wasn't able to make the show happen after he shot the pilot, so they needed a replacement. Anyways, while we're filming for HGTV, we're running back and forth to my room, and we're like editing a reel and making a reel, and I'm shooting it behind this like background that I created in my room. And lo and behold, I got a call a week and a half later. And it was because I was expanding my mind of, why can't my mom be on HGTV and why can't her house be done on HGTV?
Mhm.
And within that blessing was my own blessing. And it came indirectly to me. And I was doing something that was selfless for someone else, thinking that I was never going to make it in the TV world.
Mhm.
And, here we are today. Now you and I are on YouTube doing our thing, and we're about to blow up. So there's that. But I will say,
There's that.
coming back to the story, it actually inspired me even more because, as years start to come by or months start to come by and you're submitting and you're not getting anything back, you start to kind of lose faith, and then you got to just knuckle down and really make it happen again. So as soon as this movie was over, I signed up for 3 classes
Oh,
to go.
really?
I did. I
So
to
that's the
go.
exact impact we're talking about, that you do want everyone to have. Oh,
Yes,
good.
because
So
you know
you saw
what?
this and you had a mentality of what? I can do anything? Like you re-remembered how great like we all are, but sometimes we let the little lies get into our mind and like,
Exactly.
no, I shouldn't, or I had my time, it didn't work. Like
Yeah.
all these lies. So
Yeah.
you're saying the quote is you watch this wonderfully produced Eva Longoria. She directed, right?
She directed,
This
executive produced as well.
wonderful Eva
Devon
Longoria.
Franklin directed, but she was part of
So,
it.
so amazing,
Yeah.
and it had that much of an impact on you. So do you know what this is telling me? I guess I'm your agent in this moment. That
Tell me.
Eva Longoria is going to have to find a project for you because the energy is there. That's what I see.
The energy is there. I was so emotionally moved, and I
Mhm.
thought to myself, there are no limitations on what we can inspire or aspire to be. There's nothing off limits that we can't achieve. The only off limits thing is that we tell ourselves, you cannot achieve this. And that
Mhm.
is absolutely not true. And I will tell you from firsthand experience, you can achieve anything. I have been telling people since I was in elementary school that I was going to be on television one day and I was going to host a TV show. And uh side tangent, I wanted it to be The Price is Right as a kid. And
Oh,
lo and behold, Create the Escape is a game show.
well, Wheel of
So,
Fortune's open, so you might want to snag that one
you
too.
know what? I 100% believe that you manifest the things that come into you.
Yeah,
I did have to redirect a little bit because I did manifest something and it actually manifested into something bigger than what I
yeah.
thought. And I was more, this is more niche than I thought. Not Create the Escape, but like another company that I'm working with. And I was like, no, I only wanted to do this once a week. I didn't want to constantly be there.
Oh, yeah.
so
You.
you just redirect and
Mhm.
really open your mind and heart into what can I achieve? What do I want to achieve? Because it is possible. But if you don't believe in it, it won't happen for you. I felt when I was going to broadcasting school, I felt it right here in my chest. I knew that in one way or another, I was going to make this happen. And again, we don't see a lot of inspiring Hispanic stories that really kind of start as the middle class and propel themselves into these ultimate careers. And I'm going to say stardom because stardom is just such a far stretch, but we don't always see these stories in that. Like, sure, we see, people becoming CEOs and becoming business owners, but we really don't see that big star moment
Mhm.
often, or the story of them becoming this individual and this new version of themselves. So if you don't feel it within, it won't happen. If you feel it within, take every opportunity that you can and remember to skew it towards that. So when I worked in customer service and when I worked, at a burger stand, I was always presenting the options like I was on television.
Mm.
Like, oh, how are you today? Would you like one of these burgers that we have available? Are you going to have a fry today? Is it going to be a shake or is it going to be a soda? And it was very much the interview back and forth. And I was getting my
Mhm.
practice in, practicing my smile. Because you and I know being on camera can be very awkward. And
Mhm.
if you are not comfortable in front of the camera, it will show.
Mhm.
But enough about me.
No, I think I listen. I think it's all good. I'm going to say a couple things, and I believe you in that. I remember when we were talking once about a situation, or not a situation, but it was like something you were going to do. I won't say what job it was or whatever, but it was a job that was slightly outside of the industry.
Yeah,
But you and I both got really excited about this opportunity that was for you because we felt like there's no straight path anymore
there's
to
not.
get to where you want to go. And the particular thing you were going to be doing, I was like, ooh, and I was also maybe going to try it. I never ended up following through with that.
Mhm.
But I was very much exactly the same mindset of you, where I was like, oh, this thing that you're going to be doing, that will lead you to opportunity. I
Mhm.
don't know if it was always like that 20, 30 years ago, maybe not without social media, maybe not. Maybe you do need to sort of follow the correct path. But these days, the paths are different, especially if you have an assemblage of work that says, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm trying to do. Now, I'm
Yeah.
going to do the negative part of my sentence in a second, but I want to do the positive
Ooh,
first.
do
But the
it.
negative, it's gonna tie around. You're gonna love it. But here's the positive first thing. I absolutely was so excited to see the the cast was a wonderful cast, but I believe the son was played. One of the sons was played by this kid who was like viral sensation, I believe, with
Bryce
his
Gonzalez
father.
from the Inky Boys.
Oh, so you know? Oh, well then listen. Why am I saying it? You know it. I didn't know
No,
what
no,
they
no.
were.
Tell me. Keep going.
Well,
I
no,
just
but I'm
wanted
saying
to
I,
let
I
you know.
didn't know who he was per se. I didn't know what you just said, but
Uh-huh.
I saw the son
Yes.
on George Lopez, and George Lopez has a show with his daughter.
Yes.
And so the son, I was like, oh my god, he's so funny on this George Lopez show. Not
Yeah.
the original, but there's a new one.
Lopez versus
And
Lopez.
Lopez versus Lopez,
Yes.
and the kid, I believe the father, is no
He passed.
longer, yeah, which is such a sad thing. But like,
Yeah.
it was like tough to watch, but then also to see like, wow, this kid has just got so much in front of him. So
Mm-hmm.
I felt like as a viewer, so much success was valuable in what that must feel like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's I don't know how old he is, but he's got his whole life ahead of him, but he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have his father anymore. But then he's
Yeah.
got, a successful TV show, this successful movie. That's a tough thing to go through, but nonetheless, I think he made the movie. The part of like, oh, ow, 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 it's hot, it's hot, it's
Yeah.
hot. They're like, good hot, bad hot. Like that
He
was the
said,
cutest part.
good hot.
Such a great part of the movie. Okay, so I'm gonna attach to what you said, but I'm gonna slightly do a different side of it. It's gonna come out ultimately as a positive, but I'm gonna start a little bit more on the negative side.
Okay.
So when I'm watching it, like everything you said, I would say a lot when I was a lot younger. But I
Mm-hmm.
think this movie was reflected towards a lot of people because I am a little older and I've already said all of those wonderful things, and I've had my successes and setbacks and my peaks and valleys for so many years that sometimes I'm over 40. Once you get to that stage, it gets so hard to still sort of believe. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that was what made the movie really wonderful. And even the dynamic with the wife and the kids and everything like that. And, the little pressures that he had and who could he really talk to, especially men aren't necessarily vulnerable. That's a whole nother
Yeah.
tangent. But you have all this stuff like, on your shoulders. So for me, it really worked out in that way because I do sometimes lose that same excitement. Like everything you just said a second ago, I used to say all those things. But then once you get knocked down, knocked down, knocked down, and then you get successes too, but it's a lot of not getting knocked down. You
Mm-hmm.
start to get a little bit of I wouldn't use the word bitter, but you start to get a little more like, okay, that's a cute movie. I don't know if it's gonna make me happy, but this one made me happy. That was what was crazy, and it made me think about all what we have out there, the films and television that we have. It hasn't really been that much. I go back to thinking about like when Resurrection Boulevard was out. That was such a unique show of the time on Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the recent stuff we have with Love is on Amazon, which is created by Gloria Calderon Collette. Tanya Saracho, she's done a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Hentified, of course, was wonderful as well. I'm not sure who did that. Tanya Saracho did Vita, I believe. But like, while there's kind of a couple things coming up, there's not enough shows and movies just yet. And I think also I'd love to get to a place where sometimes the story could be the story is the story is the story without it being like, this is a story of this Latino community. I loved watching The Baker and the Beauty, which was, I believe it was a remake of another series overseas or something like that. But nonetheless, it was Victor Razouk, it was Lisa Vidal, it was a Miami setting, but it was more in the vein of different classes socially, the celebrity and then the hardworking Cuban family. I believe that was the story. So that was beautiful, where it wasn't like you were reintroducing all of these stories. You were just normalizing this different dynamic between the entire Latino community and all of the
Mm-hmm.
different types of stories that have yet to be told. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, I think, something that I feel like needs to be done a little bit more. Again, we have With Love is out on Amazon. I watch it to support because I loved the work that Gloria Calderon Collette did. She was also the one who was behind the remake of One Day at a Time,
Mm.
which the original One Day at a Time, that was a little bit pushing the envelope of the time. So it's just nice that people are coming together and supporting. I hope that wasn't a tangent, but that's sort of one
No,
of the
not at
things I
all.
thought. Yeah.
I think one of these. I think that point of the community coming together is a good point to remember. You have to remember sometimes our dreams are tied into other people, and you have to, as much as it may hurt you and strain you, you have to support your community and bring them up. Because if you're not bringing them up, then don't reach out to them later when they're already up. Like,
Mhm.
help them. We're buying all these brands from all of these ambassadors and all these celebrities that are pitching it, and it's like sometimes we have some really good brands right here in our, the back streets and on our street. So why not support them? Like, let me tell
In the
you when
back streets and on our streets. Whoa.
look, me, like Shane and I, there's this taco man who just started setting up around the corner from our house, and
Mm.
let me tell you, I I love certain restaurants, fast food restaurants. I'm not going to say any specific because I don't want nobody to at me, but we love them. But we also love hardworking individuals who are starting their businesses from the ground up, and we love to support them. So when this taco man came and set up around the corner from Shane's favorite coffee shop, we said, boom, we were there. We dropped like $50, like first night that the guy was
Oh
there. We're like,
wow.
well,
Okay.
we should probably slow down a little bit. But
Yeah.
we got the pork, and we got the chicken, and we got the asada, and then we got we got the quesadillas. I was so excited, my mouth is watering. We were so excited to get that. We just overindulged, which is, I mean, we should do that with people who are trying to build their dreams. We should overindulge in supporting them, because if we did that, we'd all be winning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it was beautiful to me. And I actually want to go into lowriding culture. It was beautiful for me to see that when he reached out to his friends from his neighborhood, and they happened to be, lowriders, that they really embraced it and said, you know what, you got a vision. It's not going to hurt us to go pass them out to the kids in the neighborhood. So let's do it. And they went ahead and they loaded them up. And it was funny because Richard Montanez's boss was like, can I get in your car? And he was a little nervous to get in the car because the cars are always nice and you don't want to scratch it or do anything to ruin it. And so the guy was like, yeah, get in the car, because to us, and like how I was upraised, like it was a normal thing. You know how to get in and out of a lowrider car without messing up the paint or putting your fingerprints on it. And so that was cool to see that. And I really want to see more people celebrating people in their community, which coincidentally is one of the reasons that we moved to Long Beach and why Shane and I are in Long Beach, because this is a lot of community members that own restaurants, that own, stands or clothing shops. And there's always pop-ups that are going along in the neighborhood that we try to support as much as we can. There's local owned Nashville hot chicken restaurants that are open from people who went to go visit, and now they brought it back here to us. And so we support them. We eat there a little bit more often than we should, but it's worth it. It's worth the calories. It's worth the workout the next day, and I'm all here for it. And coming into, like, again, fulfilling a story and really pursuing your dreams, ironically, during the pandemic, I wrote a show that is Hispanic based and actually centered here in Long Beach. So it was kind of a full circle moment, because now that I'm here in the city, I'm making edits to more that I'm learning about the city as I've been here, versus before I was just back and forth as a visitor and I would stay here. Now I actually live here and I'm infused within the community. And so, Eva Longoria, if you're watching,
Oh, she's watching.
I have a whole pilot ready for you to go. It's 68 pages. So this is a 48-minute show. We are ready. I will let you, like, you can do whatever you want. I'm ready to go. But going back to, like,
well, real quick on Eva, like, we do have to make a mention how wonderful she has crafted her career all of these years to have such longevity. Everything really started off through the TV show. I mean, she was on soaps first, right? General Hospital, but like the big moment with Desperate Housewives, and like to continue to just have such a long career is really cool to see. It's like, go ahead.
I feel like The Real Housewives was a spinoff of Desperate Housewives, but that's just me.
For sure it was. For sure it was.
That's just me making assumptions.
No, but that gets me upset.
Started with Eva Longoria.
That gets me upset too, because it's like no original ideas. Like But that's a whole different thing. That's reality versus a scripted series
Yeah,
with Mark
yeah.
Cherry. But no, like just for her to get that opportunity and what she's done with it is great. Like I said, she had that CNN series, which I would like to watch. I haven't seen it yet, but I had planned to watch it. And I like seeing things like that. Again, I wasn't sure if it was travel or food. I think it might have been a mix of both. But even like recently, Padma Lakshmi, she had the show on Hulu, Taste the Nation, which was very, very valuable in terms of location and food and just that culinary experience and how people come together. So I love stuff like that. You know what I mean? So the moral of the story for me watching this was yes, motivation for sure. A little bit older, so I'm a little more grumpy, but it was also like a reminder of like, yes, yes, you can for sure. But also me saying, what is it that I want? Like, what is the type of content? What is the type of movies? What is the type of TV shows that I really enjoy? And it's funny that I'm defining all of these ones that are all kind of similar. You know what I mean? Things
Mhm.
that tell different stories that we've not yet seen. Yeah, I guess that's the end of it. That's the end of that part of the rant. Yeah.
I want to go back to actually culturally us relating to Flamin' Hot the brand and with Latinos. It, what is it for you that why does Hot Cheetos do it for you? Like what is it about Hot Cheetos that gravitates towards you? Why do you gravitate towards Hot Cheetos? Even if it's not your favorite chip,
Mm.
why do you gravitate towards it? And I'm curious to know your answer versus my answer. So I'm going to let you go first. Why
Your
do
answer is
you
probably going to be a
gravitate?
lot bigger and more bold. Mine will just probably be like because it's in the chip family. I'm just such a chip eat. I love the chips.
You know
I'm
what?
always like, "Are you sure it's not healthy?" No, it's not healthy one bit.
It's a potato.
But maybe I haven't never thought of it. So your question is like, But maybe it's just literally like a connection. Like lots of things you could get influenced on based by the connection. The other
Hmm.
day, I was on a walk locally in the neighborhood, and there was like this ice cream stand, and it was like, what is so significant about the ice cream? But it was the community. You know what I mean? It
Hmm.
was like this particular stand. I guess it was only open on the weekends, Saturday and
Hmm.
Sunday. Always a line is what I had heard. And then lo and behold, walking by, there was a line,
Hmm.
and it was everything about it. It was the service. It was the you didn't want to. I don't want to say the you didn't want to be left out
Hmm.
mentality, but you really didn't. You wanted to be a part of it. So I think maybe with the chips, it's that same thing. Um, it just was so built into a lot of people really enjoyed them, and you just wanted to be a part of it. I guess I don't know that there is an answer, but tell me what you think.
I will say knowing you personally, and I remember you specifically said this for my birthday.
Mhm.
You showed up to the house and you had
Mhm.
bags of chips, and you said you showed up with bags of chips, the kettle cooked
Mhm.
ones, so good.
Yes.
And you were like, "Well, it's not a party unless there's some bags of chips on the table." And like
Oh.
I had chips, but it was in regards to making nachos and like
Mm.
everyone making their own platter of nachos.
Oh,
But
right.
then you brought in kettle cooked chips, and like everybody gravitated toward them.
That's
We
true.
all attacked them
Yeah.
before and after we went out. And
Yeah.
so you're right. Like chips are just chips kind of just bring people together, and everyone just indulges in them.
Yeah.
Uh, I did have another question for you though before I go into my like what gravitates me towards hot Cheetos. Are you a spicy person? Was spicy part of your upbringing? Was spicy flavor part of your upbringing? Was Tahin, Cholula, or Valentina part of your upbringing? Like, you think those are familiar flavors for you?
I thought you were saying spicy in the bedroom, so the answer would be yes. No, I'm kidding. 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 No.
And
I
now we
mean,
take a break. Just kidding.
I mean, I believe the stuff was always around. I don't know that I necessarily curated to have it. It was
Uh-huh.
more just accessible. So sometimes, you would just be at different get-togethers and it would be accessible. I don't know
Hmm.
that my mind ever was like, oh my god, I have such a craving for it. So it's that level of you just being around spicy foods, to some degree, but not necessarily anything that I was like, oh my gosh, uh, we have to have it. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're a little bit different in that regard. You probably really were influenced with all that.
So growing up, my mom, and which will lead into our next thing, going into the Latin culture. My mom used to everything. There was some sort of Tabasco hot sauce, taco sauce that was made with our meals, And naturally, you would want the same thing in a chip because there's a lot of flavor when it comes to anything that has spice into it, because it just does something around the inside of your lip where it just brings out all the flavor.
Mm.
And so my mom used to make us breakfast sandwiches, and then she would put I know I'm gonna botch this because it's been so many years. And she probably has a bottle of it in her house. I think it's pico pica
Mm.
sauce, if I have that right. And she would put it on the eggs with the ham. She put eggs and ham, and then she'd mash avocado on sourdough, but she would put the hot sauce on top of the egg, and then she'd close it. And it was so good. I always left. I'm still a breakfast sandwich person. I
Mm.
never left the house from elementary school without a breakfast sandwich. So naturally, when it came to lunchtime and there was hot Cheetos for a quarter, I used to take that quarter out of my pocket, hand it to the lunch lady, and I would go ahead and get my hot Cheetos. So that's why I was drawn to hot Cheetos as an individual, but I also liked the Cool Ranch after I ate the hot Cheetos because it would relieve the burning sensation inside of my mouth. And so it was like a nice even balance. It was like an acid and a base when I would eat these things, which spices are a sort of acid and Cool Ranch is a sort of base. So I was able to even these things out scientifically, of course. But I do want to go into Latin culture,
Mhm.
and it was funny watching some elements in the movie about how the kids are running around, and in the front yard and the backyard through the house, and the mom cooking in the kitchen, and something really resonated there for me because that's how we are as people. Not to say that other people aren't that way, but this is just something that we regularly do. Was your upbringing somewhat similar to that? Number one, and number
Always
two,
getting all my information today.
is my mom the only one that would set a speaker off on Saturday and Sunday morning early and make everybody in the house get up and clean? We'd clean the baseboards, we'd clean the floors, we'd clean everything,
Mhm.
do the yard, do the backyard, and then we were able to relax and live our life. But was your mom the same way? Was it's the weekend, everybody's getting up to clean?
I like the idea of the cleaning. I think honestly, like credit to her, she did a lot of it.
Mhm.
It's something like cleaning and being like really organized, something I enjoy now. But as a kid, we did sort of rest on her just being, I don't know, just such a caretaker in that way. But yeah, I mean, people probably should have helped out a little bit more. But I get the overall vibe for sure. The Saturday, kind of a chance to reset. Yeah, no, I get that.
I see these videos on TikTok, and it's they're using the baby Yoda with the broom, and they're hitting the baseboards with all their might, and it's making the loudest noise, and it's 5 and 6 in the morning, and they have the little captions at the bottom like "My mom at 6 in the morning," and my mom was the exact same way. She started vacuuming at the crack of dawn. And if it wasn't the vacuum, you heard the washer filling. And if it wasn't the washer, you heard the pans clacking because she was starting to cook, or you heard her boombox because we had a treadmill inside of the house.
Mhm.
But it was always at the crack of dawn. It was never 10, 11. It was always 5, 6, or 7. And I was like, oh my gosh. I remember being about 7 or 8 years old thinking to myself, oh my God, all I want to do is sleep. Right. Or like,
Just
all
sleep
I
in,
want to do
yeah.
is just sleep in. So when I go to my baseball game, I'm not tired.
There's something refreshing about what you said, though. It's very warm, and yeah, no, I mean, just stating like my mom was or is such a wonderful, wonderful caretaker. She really was the best. So there's different varying ways on how our mothers were, but like generally speaking, there's a lot of similarities there as well.
Now, now going into the mothers of Hispanic culture, I want to talk about Mrs. Montanez and her role in propelling Richard into supporting him. But at first, she was a little bit apprehensive, and she actually called her father-in-law because jobs were scarce, and it was maybe a little bit step up from being a janitor, and it was just a full-time janitor position, but I
Mhm.
believe it was with the church. And I thought to myself, here we go. It's the safety of having enough hours, having enough money in the bank, having all these things.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, like, we almost have to do, we have to do better. We have to do better. Like, we can achieve anything. Everybody across the board, no matter what your background is, ethnicity wise or culturally, like, everybody can do better in achieving what they want. Like, why do we naturally look for other options that are more, I guess, on the even playing field of what you currently have versus jumping up 2 or 3 levels into something that's 10 times better than what you're doing? Why do we do that? Why do you think?
Probably the biggest reason is just because
Generationally.
generationally years past there wasn't. I mean, it's there was a comment in it was on Netflix, Master of None, which was with Aziz Ansari,
Mm-hmm.
and they were having dinner with their family, their parents, and they were like, oh, trying to get to know the parents a little bit more, not get to know them, but like, you know, celebrate them, right? And like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what did you guys do for fun when you were our age? And one of the dads was like, fun? We didn't have fun. This is a new thing for you. Like, you guys are. This is a luxury that you guys had. We didn't get to have that. So I think, tying into your question, I think it might be a little bit of like generally. Why can't I say the word? I'm usually very good with this. Generationally, there were a lot of roadblocks that didn't allow some of the stuff that we down the road as a luxury do get to see and do get to have as that light at the end of the tunnel. And you've even seen it within, like, let's say yourself, and then I don't know, you have nieces and nephews and stuff, like even the way
Mm-hmm.
that they look at the world a little bit differently, and they
Mm-hmm.
get a even a better and a bigger chance. So I would say that's where it comes from. It comes from a big loving moment. It comes from a big loving family comfort. It's not necessarily always negative, but
Mm-hmm.
it's that safety, you know, it's the security, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like when, like they would make the joke about women, you know, what makes a great, you know, potential suitor. It's like, oh, does he have security? Does he bring that to me? I think that's like a thing that the parents, you know, and aunts and uncles and everything, they all want for that next generation. They want that for you.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that's the only way they know how to show love is the very status quo way. You know, they don't really know how to show love in a way that's such a dreamer, such an ambitious element. I guess I don't know. I really don't know, but
I think
maybe.
ambitious is the right word. Ambitious element is very foreign to that generation. And it was, again, throw out the line, but don't throw it out too far. Throw it so you can reel it close enough to you. And don't bite the hand that feeds you, because when you have a good job here, it might not always be here,
Mm,
type of
yeah.
situation. And it was almost refreshing to see that, because it allows us to relate to Richard's character even more. Because it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, we have dreams, but also we have all these people in our front runners and our immediate surrounding that are, more than willing to help, but in their state of comfortability, versus, hey, you know what, let's risk it all. I'll give you $100. I'll give you $100 so you can go buy some spices.
Hmm.
And especially because here's the thing too, is in today's day and time where we're at right now in society, we're actually going through this next economical downfall of their inflation is high, and there's such a separation of middle class and being able to afford where you're living. Myself, for example, I have a great job right now. I get paid very well, but I have 2 student loans that are going to kick in less than 90 days with the pause from COVID, and I have a nice place. And this is actually more towards the bottom of the cost of living in this area, close to work, so that I'm not putting more money into gas and mileage, and I can work longer hours and have a less of a commute. And there's all these things that go into balance, and it's like I'm still having a rough time to afford what we afford. And so I feel like also another reason people related to this story, not just, the Hispanic community, but a lot of communities, is because we're almost going through an identical time right now. We're seeing layoffs happen. We're
You
seeing it
think
at
people connected to it like that? You think they really like connected to we're about to go through, so this feels even like I don't know that people thought of it like that. I mean, it's a good thing to think about, but
I think there
wow.
was a percentage of people who did see that, as in, I'm working so hard right now. for a lack of a better explanation is I'm working so hard right now and just nothing is happening for me. Like housing is so expensive. Cars are overpriced
Yeah.
right now. The percent interest on cars and the percent interest on the housing right now is so outlandish. I'm finding myself working not a full-time job, but also a part-time job and maybe
Right. Right.
even doing a
Well,
job out of my house because I have kids in order to make this happen.
so that's the question, and I'm going to ask you too. What is the question you would? Well, we kind of already did. We already said what would you want to ask Richard Montanez. And so, but I would, and you already did ask that. But here's another part of it. It's like I want to know what potentially in the script or just even on the cutting room floor didn't necessarily make it. Based on decisions. When finalizing the film,
Uh-huh.
because I feel like there could have even been more of an uphill battle, more like, we didn't really see, unless I'm wrong, we saw him down and out, but we didn't really see him where he was just absolutely
Obliterated.
fed up. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we did, but I'm thinking in my mind, I'm thinking there was a lot more. But to make it such a feel good story, I think maybe some liberties were taken with that. But in my
Mhm.
mind, I think we could have seen even more.
We
Maybe
could have.
it could have been a different kind of film in that case. Maybe
Yeah.
not a fun Hulu film. But I really, that would be something, and maybe it's just the authenticity that I'd like to see, or that
Yeah.
I throw my hands in the air like, when is it ever going to happen? Eva Longoria. Um, so I think that would have been something that I would like to see extra. Is there anything in the story that you would want to see more of? Like if you were to get to, like I said, to talk with Richard and, hey, what was left out, or what, was it relationship with the wife? Like, do you have anything
I
that comes
would
to
have
mind?
liked to see more of a banter of what actually went on behind the scenes. We saw a lot of what we did see a lot of the relationship between Mr. and Mrs. Montañez. We did, but I would have liked to see more behind the scenes. We did see the lights get shut off. We
Mm,
did see that point of we're coming to our wits end, but we didn't see. And maybe they filmed it, but maybe it just didn't make the cut. Like in Selena, when we see Abraham sitting at the table, his business gets shut down. He throws the receipts all over the place when she says, "Como se dice Reaganomics."
mm.
We didn't have necessarily that moment, but we did have the power shut off, and we did see that. Um,
Yeah, see, I want to see the. Are you effing kidding me? Like I
yeah,
want to
you know,
see.
and but that's
uh,
very relatable. It's very relatable.
Yeah, and I don't know if by saying it, I thought I was actually going to be a pessimist. So I'm glad you're like good with what I'm saying. But it is something that I was like a lot of things that happened. So I'm thinking about the time that my lights went off, and I was not like so so okay with it. He wasn't okay. He was more just like, oh, things are tough. But sometimes you
Yeah,
want to
you want a
really
little bit
get.
more frustration.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, am I wrong to think that?
No, and I think that has to do with us individually and our experiences with life and how we've seen situations handled with. But there are those people where that just might not have been part of his story because he might
True.
just
Yeah.
had such a positive outlook on things. Like you and I both, Corey, our friend here in Long Beach,
Mhm.
that just moved. We see like Corey is like the ultimate just happy, like just good vibes all the way around the board. Like he will always find the positive in every situation, which is I love that about Corey. Like I'm sure Corey has been frustrated at times, but that's really not the characteristics that I see.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't.
Well,
I sent him this, by the way, so I don't think he was prepared for us to talk about him. But I also didn't expect to talk about him either. But I'm just using him as an example.
as an
Like
example, yeah, yeah,
Richard Montanez might have been that person where it's like,
yeah.
oh shucks, but you know what? We'll make it happen. And
What
there
can you
are
do?
those
What can
people
you
in the
do about
world.
it? And
Yeah.
being more in the negative space, what's that going to do? Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, again, I was just wondering because it is hard to go through
Yeah.
all that, and you have almost like a hopeless mentality. I mean, what a weird experience. He gets that job, but then all of a sudden, within the factory, I guess the other factory was getting more attention, so there was
Mhm.
going to be cuts where they were at. Like, what do you
Yeah.
do with that? You're not in the position to move, and then it even was a potential within the division of the friends that he made. Like it was a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff that would really eliminate your go-getter attitude. So really, I
Yeah.
think that was one of the infectious parts of the film. And so to a lot of people, I think they took from it, like you say, it felt represented and they felt like they were seen in it. For
Mhm.
me, it was more like seeing something and like adding up in your head, like what makes my experience unique, and then how can I make that a way to make give myself an income or give myself an opportunity to grow within the companies that I work with or whatever. So that to me is what I really was the most inspired by. Like, it's like, don't just do what a generic playbook sorry, don't just do what a generic playbook looks like. Do, like, find your own magic, was what he did. This was so important to us, is how he kind of like worded it. So I feel like since watching it, I've been trying to do stuff like that. I'm like, what is the unique magic that I have, and just kind of like infuse that in every opportunity and every hangout and every conversation I'm in, and really shine that light. So
If I could have a story like this come out every 6 months, I would never have a pit. I would always have a peak. I would never have a valley. And because I'm one of those people who goes through the peaks and valleys of, like,
yeah,
when I'm up, I'm killing it. I'm
yeah.
inspired. I'm really just going after it. And then there's those days where I'm like, I'm gonna go to the gym, and that's all I really did today because
Which is
I'm
still
so
good. Yeah, yeah.
defeated.
Okay, I have such a good question adding to a lot of that. Well, actually, were you done with that? Because it is jumping to the next thing.
No, yeah, let's get into it.
Okay. So here's the question.
Tell me.
So, because what you wouldn't want to happen is this is such a success, but what'd you say the girl's name was? The actress,
Annie.
Jeannie, Annie,
Annie.
Jeannie. Well, her too. And Jesse. Like, where do you want them to go with this? Like, what is the next move for them? I'm sure they're already working on things, but like, because it was so monumental and people really enjoyed it, what would you like to see them doing with this notoriety? Maybe even the Sun. Yeah, what would you like to see?
With this platform that's been given with the movie being released?
Yeah. What's the next project they should? If you were managing or an agent of each of them, where would you want to put them?
I want to see. I think Annie's a great actress. I think she was great in Hentified. Playing a single mother, and I think she was great here. And I think Annie is very well on her way to being the A-list movie star because she is making her strategic moves in that way, even if they're inadvertently in that way. It's just happening for her that way, and so I'd really like to see her. For and this is so cliche, but I would like to see Annie follow in the footsteps of Jennifer Lopez. Really just getting out there and doing the movies and doing the rom-coms, but I see Annie doing more of dramatic roles. So let's see Annie do a dramatic role, and a major dramatic role, and let's see Annie come up with the Oscar for Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress, just depending on which role is available at the time. But let's see that. Let's see Jesse continue to grow. And I know Jennifer Lopez and New York Productions is very heavy on, bringing up diversity and really, getting them their opportunities that they've been looking for. So I could definitely see that happening. And with the Inky Boys, I see that kid, like he's gonna go far.
No, he's
in
great.
life.
Yeah, he is.
With Bryce, I see Bryce going very far in his career. I think he's a very talented kid. That's what drew me to him on TikTok. Was he did an Anthony Anderson skit, and he mouthed those words, lip synced those words like so perfectly, and his emotion behind it. Like, no wonder the kid got discovered, because he is such a talent and a force to be reckoned with. And I really hope that at one point he'll be able to pull back a little bit and have his childhood or like his teen years and enjoy himself. Just like Noah that was on The Fosters. Noah was really able to kind of just step back a little bit and enjoy his life. And then he skirted around and went back into doing dramatic roles in the movies. And now he's living his, career, and we always see positive press about him. So I would like to see Bryce still have a childhood and not be forced to do these things. But I want it to still continuously, naturally come to him the way that it's been. I think, him being on Lopez versus Lopez is a great opportunity for him. He's major on TikTok. So Gen Z loves this kid.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
I will say that I know that Annie is working consistently with Linda Yvette Chavez, who created Hentified. So I would love to see them actually do a feature film together, because I think they're both such talented individuals. I think Linda Yvette Chavez is a magnificently talented creator, writer. And I would not doubt that she has a Oscar winning movie under her belt somewhere in the
Oh,
near
that's a
future.
nice compliment to say. Yeah, that's nice that you put that in the universe. I'm sure when she hears you say that, that will be nice and affirming and exciting. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I am ready for Linda Yvette Chavez to call me with Eva Longoria and get this pilot, the 68-page pilot that's sitting in my closet, out to the production tables and underway because baby, chef's kiss. I know it's
And I listen, and I think that's the whole point. The whole point is, we're often told to turn ourselves down, to really bury those ambitions and not be excited. Now that doesn't mean don't do the work and not really have a good product to you would like both of them to look at. You're
Mhm.
confident in your product. That means you've had the trials and errors, the successes, setbacks, or whatever to get to that place. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like a lot of times we're all sort of told to keep it quiet,
Mhm.
don't, shh, but
Be a little
I
bit
don't
more
know. We're in a
humble.
different we're in a different time, and like if there's something that you do good, you're good for, you should buck up, champ. we have to we have to talk about it. We have to say this is what I'd be good for. Like some of the things that we said along the lines here. It's like, hey Eva, like this is something. Let's get a meeting going. You could present the things that are really exciting to you. Both the stuff that we do with this channel, both of our radio and television successes, and setbacks too. There's a big picture here, so why not say you have that script? You wrote it at a time that was such a tough time. If it was
Mhm.
during the pandemic, I mean, that was
Mhm.
not exactly fostering the most creative energy, but you still pushed it through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just saying you already do it, but I'm like co-signing it.
Thank you, Ronnie Jr. And you know what? Here's another
Mhm.
thing too. I pay
I
too
would like
much.
15%.
I
No.
pay too much for these teeth to shine as bright as they do to
Okay.
not be on camera 24/7. Okay.
And then there's that. And then there's that. No,
I've
but I had a
used
great.
too many Crest whitening strips to get
Yeah.
the hot Cheeto stains out these teeth.
Well, see, you could be an ambassador for both Flaming Hot Cheetos and then go right next door to the Crest white
Crest
strips. There
whitening
you go.
strips.
See, we've got your full career planned out. No
Look,
problem. I'm just the consultant. What are you
from
gonna
your
do?
mouth to God's ears,
By way of Eva or someone else? Yes,
by
yes.
way of Eva
But it
or
was great.
Yvette.
It was great, man. It was great. So I'm glad we got a chance to chat about all this stuff. I wish there was even more. I wish there was more conversation. I'll say encouraging people in the comments to write more things that why it was for you, because we're only two opinions. So
Mhm.
there's so many other opinions. So I would really encourage everybody to put in the comments what really did it for them in
Yeah.
this film. Yeah.
What
There's
stood
no
out for
there's
you?
no wrong answer. Yeah.
There's not. We all relate in a different way. And if you haven't got a chance to see Flamin' Hot yet, you can head over to Hulu. You can actually find it by way of Disney Plus as well. Head over to
Mhm.
Hulu, stream it, check it out, send your support. Also comment, like, and subscribe.
Oh, it
You
was
can find
Disney. That's maybe why it
it is
wasn't
Disney.
so like it didn't go to a place of like what the. Okay,
You know
now
what?
I
But Hulu,
understand.
Hulu has Hulu
Now
has
I get it.
has done that before. But I think this is just one of those stories where it's feel good.
Yeah,
If you want to head over and check out more of our stuff, you
the,
can
s-
head over to at
the
Russell
set
X
is
Raymond on YouTube.
the
Ronnie
set
said
is
is moving.
Eva. I want to record from a from a different set. The set is moving at the moment, so come through, boo, come
You
through.
know what? Look,
Ah,
we the thing is we're making it happen.
yeah,
We're making it happen with what we got, and we got the talent behind it to make it happen.
yes,
So there's that.
yes.
Again, if you have not seen Flamin' Hot yet, go get yourself some Cheetos. Head over to Hulu. Bring all your loved ones over. Watch the story and the inspiration of Richard Montañez and how he got to the brand of Flamin' Hot to where it is now. You can head over to Randomly Ronnie on Instagram and on YouTube, and you can head over to Russell X Raymond all over the internet to find everything that we've done so far. Until
Mhm.
then, we will see you next time for our next review. See you later.